Lifestyle breaks down to 9 components. That is the quality, quantity, and timing of food, exercise, and sleep. And once we take care of this, at least if we take care of the timing component, then everything else falls into its right place. Because to be very clear, it's very difficult to remember, even keep track of how many kilocalories we eat in a day. I don't know about you, even
nobody can sustain
no,
it.
even I cannot guesstimate how many kilocalories I have consumed.
No.
So,
yes.
And the quality also, I cannot say how much carbohydrate, protein, or fat I consume on any given day. So the only thing I remember is the timing. So that's why timing becomes a very tangible, very personal aspect of our life. And just imagine everything that we do in a day, even this conversation that we have between you and I, we set a time and we did it. And once we are on time, then everything flows perfectly fine. Just imagine if I was half an hour late to this podcast. You'd be so upset and mad, right?
Throw everything off. It's a good analogy. It's a really good analogy.
Similarly, our body has the circadian timing. So that means it has a timetable that tells us, that has already prescribed us, ideally when we should go to bed, how long we should be in bed, when we should wake up, when we should start eating, when we should stop eating, when is it better for us to go outdoor and do some exercise, and when to wind down. And if we are on that time, if we're on time with our body's circadian schedule, then everything will fall into its right place.
Amazing. So well said. So when we're looking at the timing of food, this has been a question my community has asked over and over again. When's the best time for me to eat? Is it, I always say, eat in the daylight. We have some new research that's coming out saying you should have protein within a half an hour of waking up in the morning. We have other people say, wait a couple of hours after you wake up. And yet I think a lot of fasters skip breakfast and have their eating window end at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So do we know from research where this eating window should go to maximize our metabolic health?
Yeah, so this is a question that's always...
You've answered this 1,000 times.
No, it's not. It's a very personal, it all depends on your personal life, because there are two things. One big thing is, in the pursuit of perfection, we should not give up what is good for you, right? We always think about, okay, so it has to be this super optimized, perfect plan, but then it doesn't fit my schedule, so maybe I should give up everything. No, that's not true. So let's break it down to what time of the day, what happens in our body at different time of the day, so that you can actually figure out when is the ideal time for you. So, so let's start with waking up. So when we wake up, that's the time when we have the maximum stress hormone, cortisol. So you may be saying that, okay, in the daytime you're too stressed, in the evening you're trying to juggle many things, you're stressed, you are doing weightlifting or strength training, whatever you're doing, you may be stressed, but actually the maximum cortisol happens within 45 minutes after waking up. Then the question is, well, we know that having food with cortisol is not a good idea because it doesn't...
I was just going to say, that's not a great combo.
And then the other half of the story is melatonin, which is the night hormone that rises throughout night, reaches its peak maybe 2 to 3 hours before we wake up, and then it gradually goes down. And when we wake up, we still have nearly 30% of our peak melatonin level. It has to go down completely for us to feel, and that's why some people, when they wake up a little bit earlier than when they're supposed to wake up, they feel a little groggy, sleepy, and if you take a large dose of melatonin, try to fall asleep next morning, you're feeling still sleepy because your body still has a lot of melatonin.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Melatonin, in addition to making your brain to sleep, it also makes your pancreas to sleep. So that means when you eat your breakfast, most breakfast have some carbohydrate that needs to be broken down to glucose and that needs to be absorbed by a body. So insulin plays a big role in that. But when melatonin is around, then insulin production from pancreas is slowed down. It's not completely stopped, but it just slows down. So in that way, in the morning, as the stress hormone is high, melatonin is high for at least an hour or two, it's not the right time to eat. I think I started saying that one should wait for an hour or two after waking up, and this has now amplified. And
Everybody's followed. Well, but it makes sense. It makes sense because what you're saying is that when cortisol and melatonin are high, what you need to be metabolically healthy is not quite there. So it would make sense to wait for these two hormones to go down and then eat so that you're putting yourself in a little bit a better metabolic advantage.
But here is another caveat. That is, there is no human study yet showing this effect. And the reason is it's really, for that study, you have to actually bring people to the clinic. They should sleep there. And then immediately after waking up, you can start measuring melatonin and cortisol and also give them a bolus of food and measure their blood glucose for the next 1.5 hours, which is a very difficult experiment.
Got it.
The converse has been done where people are given food because melatonin also rises 2 to 3 hours before we go to bed. So then the question is, if you give a bolus of food very close to bedtime, measure melatonin and measure blood glucose, then there is a nice match between how high our melatonin is and how bad our body is.
Or sleep. I've seen it on my my Aura ring. I see it all the time if I eat too late.
That thing has been done. But the morning one, experimentally, it has not been done. It's just based on the idea that this might happen. But at least in many of our studies, we have seen people who just delay their breakfast. I'm not saying that they're delaying their breakfast to noon or 10 o'clock. They're delaying a couple of hours in the morning, but they're not actually advancing their dinner time that much because the delay itself is giving them 10 hours. They also improve their blood glucose level. So, it's not too many people. We don't have enough power there to say conclusively. As I said, there is no very specific human study in this subject, in this topic, that there should be a good morning fast of 1 to 2 hours.
Right.
But the hormonal profiles make sense. And then there are some studies, few individuals who delay breakfast, they benefit from their glucose profile. So those things align.
So then eating in the light would make sense.
Daytime.
Like try to eat when it's light out.
Daytime. So unless somebody wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning and habitually